Hello, everyone. This is Titania. We're doing a group tarot session today on Friday, May 22nd, 2020. And the theme today is wisdom. What are we needing to know to have more wisdom in ourselves and more wisdom when we look out at the world, to be a beacon of clarity and wisdom? I'm going to just set the intention now for our reading. And I invite everyone who's on the call or listening in to just relax and take a few breaths with me, and we'll set the tone together. 3 breaths. Creator, this is your daughter, Titania, and I am here with your other children, about to do a reading for our collective highest and greatest benefit. Our intention is to create a sacred space of clarity, for empowerment, and of wisdom. My intention is to be a clear channel for the information that is most needed right now, today, for all those who are listening on the call, here now and in the future. My intention is to use language that you will effortlessly hear, understand, and integrate for your highest and greatest purpose, and to bring through the information that is most needed and helpful at this time for the highest and greatest good of all concerned, and to bless this beautiful planet that is our home. I call upon my higher self and the higher selves of all those on this call and all those listening in the future, as well as an overlighting angel of communication, to facilitate this exchange and ensure that it's blessed with light and love for the highest and greatest good of all concerned. I invite the 4 archangels to come and hold the 4 directions around us, creating a sacred container of clarity, of wisdom, of insight, of love, of support, communication, of peace, celebration, of anything that is in our hearts and minds at this time, to just create a wondrous container for this, that we may blossom and grow and become more than we were, so we may shine more brightly in the world and be a beacon of light and hope and love for all those whose life we touch, and for ourselves as well. Anything that doesn't match those frequencies and intentions is welcome to leave this space now. I thank the 4 archangels for holding this space. Raphael for holding the east, Michael for holding the south, Gabriel for holding the west, Uriel for holding the north, creating a sacred container around all those, present and future, who will be listening to this call. A sacred container across time and space. Let's get going on the reading. Thank you. Thank you. So today is about wisdom. What is it that we need to know about wisdom? The time that we're standing in here on May 22nd is this energy of surfacing of, and certainly where we are, restrictions are being relaxed a little bit, and we're starting to turn outward and return our gaze to the larger world, and in curiosity, wondering what's coming next, wondering what it holds for us, wondering how we're going to manage it all, what's going to happen, what it's going to look like, and I've asked for guidance, and wisdom is the word that keeps coming, that we'll be able to hold that greater parameter as we move out into the world. So what do we need to know about wisdom right now? We'll just start with 3 cards, and then we'll go more deeply into that. Okay, so the recent past. Tower has fallen. The tower is a story of, it wasn't built right. It's based on the idea of the Tower of Babylon. And so a building being brought down to its foundations because it wasn't well constructed. The foundation, it needed to be brought right down to the ground because it was not built in a manner that was sustainable, that was authentic, congruent, true. And the blast comes from the higher, wiser aspects, the divine forces, if you will, intervene and bring the tower down so that it can be rebuilt. So it's a powerful card of rebuilding, of restructuring, of our world brought down to its foundations and needing to be rebuilt, but rebuilt with intention and care and love and thought. And so this is sitting in our recent past. The influence is waning. I think we can all agree that this has been an experience that we've all gone through. The world as we knew it has been perhaps not brought down to its foundations, thank goodness, but we've certainly had a major wake-up call, and we've all been given an opportunity to really think about what's important to us, what's valuable, and where do we stand in this world, and what really do we want, and how do we want to rebuild our collective tower, our personal towers as well. And when we exist in a state where it's not authentic and it's all an illusion, the fanciness, the big things, the all that which is inauthentic, it's easy to get lost in the illusion as we're living it. And it takes a cataclysm, it takes the bolt from the blue to rattle our cage enough that we have the space and the wisdom to discern what isn't working. And it's my deep hope in my heart that we've had the opportunity to really collectively yearn for a better beginning, a more authentic and true way of living moving forward. Because there's such wonderful solutions in our world waiting to come forward. We just need the collective will and intention. And that starts with what we're holding in our hearts. So this is the energy in our recent past. The tower is also a major arcana. The tarot deck is divided into two. You have the major and the minor arcana. And the major arcana, they are pay attention cards. They are soul development cards or purpose cards. And when they show up, you really need to pay attention. So our recent past is important, as I think we can all agree. Our present card is the card of illusion. So you see the woman at the bottom is looking up at all of the hearts, and she's overwhelmed. She's sort of this sense of wonder as she looks up at all of these hearts that are in the sky. And the important thing, I think, from this card, what I'm getting is not to get overwhelmed or distracted by the illusions of life or the bits and pieces, not to get pulled off our centers. We've had an opportunity to ground, to be in our homes, to be in ourselves, to reevaluate what's important. And it's important for us not to get pulled off that course, not to let ourselves be distracted again. So many of us have been experiencing a slower pace and a desire to maintain that slower pace. And this card speaks to me of that awareness and needing to keep that awareness present in us so that we're making decisions from a wise, grounded place rather than a distracted place and a place of overwhelm or being pulled out and off of our centers and out into the world again. As our world, as our collective culture starts up again, I suppose is the best way to put it, there will be a certain familiarity with what was, but we don't have to go back to that. We individually and collectively can make different choices. But the trick about wisdom is staying in our hearts, is staying grounded in ourselves, is providing ourselves with enough space and time to be grounded and peaceful and have a container or a space in our lives to look at our lives and come at it from a broader perspective, a wiser perspective. So it means that we can't go running off in all directions like we used to. We really need to build into our lives some peaceful space so we can have some a contemplative period in our day where we can reflect and discern what's appropriate for us. It's so easy for us to get pulled off center, especially the way life was. And it's up to us going forward to really set some boundaries so that we have the space that we need to stay in our wisdom, stay in our power, stay in our groundedness, stay in that state that allows us to make better choices for ourselves and our families and our communities, because we have that sacred container, if you want to call it that, a meditation space, a prayer space daily, where we're peaceful and still with ourselves and the wisdom that is there for us when we turn to it. So this is the energy in our present, this idea of not getting pulled off our center, keeping our energy within ourselves, noticing what's in the world. As a friend likes to say, keeping 50% of your energy on yourself and 50% of your energy on what's happening outside of you, but not letting yourself get pulled too far one way or the other. It's a balancing act. It always is, isn't it? And the near future is the Hermit. So that's a really interesting card, and I'm curious about this one. So this is another major arcana. So we're moving into more important, it's all important, but sort of pay attention time. So the Hermit would seem to speak to me that this return to collective culture is not going to be as it was for sure. The Hermit, of course, is an individual who goes off and lives by themselves up in the mountains to pursue a life of contemplation. This is interesting considering we've chosen wisdom as our theme. And so what I'm seeing in our near future is this idea of because the other thing about the Hermit is he shows the way to others. He's the one that we seek out when we have questions about about our lives. He's the holder of wisdom. So in the near future is this idea of perhaps a continuation of this space in our hearts and in our lives, and the pursuing of greater wisdom. That's this pursuing of truth, this pursuing of what is real and what is important. And it's interesting. I'm wondering if this means that we will be continuing to be somewhat more isolated. I mean, certainly, of course, they've said that large gatherings aren't going to be allowed, that kind of idea. But this idea, it seems to me that this is pulling forward this contemplative space that we've had, and it's more of an intentional pursuit of wisdom, and more of an intentional pursuit of our inner truth and our capacity to be guides to each other, as well as seeking out each other when we are in need of wisdom, seeking out those who hold wisdom in our space, in our lives. I mean, what's true is we all have the capacity to be a space for wisdom. It's whether or not we give ourselves the opportunity to do that. And the opportunity to be a space holder for wisdom means that we do need to give it a container. We do need to give it space. We need to honor that and give ourselves an opportunity to be inward and listen to the wisdom that's within us. So this is interesting. So that's going into our near future, is this idea of holding more of this wisdom within us, seeking to hold it more intentionally, seeking to be a light to others, seeking to be seeking each other for our light. And I see it as a calling to that deeper, wiser, broader part of us, having more of that in our field, having more of that in our space and in our lives, and carrying that out into the world, no matter what we're doing or how we're called to reemerge into the world, but to be a clearing for this love and this light and this wisdom, so that we don't make the same mistakes again, so that we are building the world from a really intentional and divinely inspired place, accessing that connection to source that's within us and being a clearing for that very intentionally. I mean, again, it comes back to this idea of intention. And this card here is reminding us that it's a choice, and we have to be deliberate about it, or it's very easy to get distracted and pulled off our center and pulled off into the many concerns of the smaller world. But the world that we want to build requires that we be more grounded in that stronger, wiser energy and carrying that out into the world and again, this idea of being a clearing for that in the world, shining our light brightly so others can also shine and find their way. So, since I only have Linda on the call, I'll just check in with you and see if you have any thoughts, or if you'd like to go further into any of this, or if it makes sense to you. Where are you at?
Of course. Looking at that hermit card, and I'm not an interpreter of the cards, but it's interesting that after, we acknowledge the falling tower, we acknowledge that we're now in a place of intentional decisions, and we have so many decisions to make, and we want to make sure we're not distracted and we stay on track, as we enter into the world. Now the hermit, he's in a black place, and I'm wondering if that is our sort of a warning to take precautions for the possibility of that second wave and of that need to isolate again.
I think the because often the hermit is portrayed as standing on the top of the mountain in the dark, and he's carrying the lantern, and he's
Oh,
lighting the way for others up the mountain. And so I think the energy or the sense that I'm getting from this card is that the path forward is still not clear. Sort of we're still in the darkness, so to speak. And so the importance of this going within for wisdom, this going within for the light, this going within and being a clearing, despite the lack of clarity, the lack of ability to see even, and I think about the symbolism of a hermit standing on the top of the mountain holding the light against the darkness. It gives us, when we hold that space in our own lives and in the lives of our families and community, we're creating something for them in the midst of the darkness for them to follow. So I would be cautious to say that the darkness represents sort of more of the same or more, but I think it also, what the sense I get is that we're still not sure. So to me, that's what the darkness represents, is more this uncertainty as we go forward, and hence the importance for that wisdom, hence the importance for that container of wisdom and prayer and meditation and contemplation, so that we can ground to the wiser part of ourselves and bring that out into our lives and hold that as we navigate this new and unknown territory together. I am cautious. I guess there's many different perspectives on why we're in the position that we're in and what the best way forward is. And I think that's where each of us tuning into our wisdom is really important, because we all have different paths up the mountain. And so for some of us, this may mean, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to go slow as we emerge. But the most important piece is to listen to yourself, to listen to the wisdom inside of yourself, and to give yourself space to access that place so that you do know what to do going forward, regardless of what happens. I think, to me, this is the most powerful touchstone in this time of reemergence, if you will, of continued uncertainty, if you will, of, are we going to have a second wave and get knocked back into our homes? I mean, we just don't know. But if we're able to access this wisdom and carry it within us and hold that light in our own lives, we'll be much more peaceful, and we will be better prepared and make better choices because of the energy that we're sitting in and what we're holding as we go forward in the world. Does that make sense?
Beautifully, yes. Looking at the card, it did worry me a little bit. It does look dark, but it's more of a card of opportunity rather than of death in the end, right? So
definitely,
very, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So what I'm sensing right now, again, is, we've been through this upheaval. It's jarred us all mightily. We've all been knocked on our butts, so to speak. And as a result, we've had to reevaluate our lives. And it's for some of us, it's been harder than for others because of who we are and the path we are already on. Some of us are in a very three-dimensional space with our experience. And so to have the world, the carpet pulled out from under you could be really discombobulating if you don't have a grounding in something broader. And so it's important to, whatever your definition of that is, there is a higher, wiser, broader part of us that has this figured out, that is holding the clarity and the wisdom, and it's calling us towards it. And if we give ourselves permission, we can tap into that wisdom and have the certainty and the peace and the grace to move through whatever life brings us, because we are grounded in that broader, wiser part of us that's always there with us no matter what we go through. I think the big trick, as I'm seeing here, is not to be distracted again, not to go back to that three-dimensional perception of life, but to hold that bigger picture, to hold that larger possibility space, and to hold that light within us and to shine it out for others as well. Whatever that means, even if it just means that you yourself are peaceful and grounded and at ease in the world. That is such a gift to anyone who is in a state of uncertainty or pain or suffering or confusion, even just being. I mean, we all know when we've had our times of confusion, how wonderful it is to sit with someone who just hears us and hold us in a good way until we get back on our feet and realize that it's okay to not know where we are, because there's a part of us that's got this figured out. We can trust that we'll be led if we give ourselves permission to tune in and listen to that wisdom. Yeah, so that's the message for those cards right now about what we're facing. Did you want to go into anything else, Linda, or does that seem complete to you?
Well, it does. It seems very complete. It really gives me a really great place to focus on. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Now, I would also love to do, again, that understanding that we are each of us a unique part of the collective, but we're also all connected. And so our experience is often what other people are going through. I would love to do the what supports you and what obstacles are in front of you, Linda, if you're up for that, so that we can just generally see what's supporting your wisdom and maybe what's an obstacle to your wisdom right now, understanding that others who may listen to the call later will also benefit from that. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Or do you have something else you'd like to explore?
It sounds great to explore further. I mean, there's just so many things. Where do I start? Just trying to get our feet on the ground, financially, making financial decisions and being confident in that. Mm-hmm. That's a huge one. I'd love to explore with you.
Okay.
Because we're sort of avoiding making decisions on it right now, or actually have been for a long time. So, especially now with a changing world, like how we can make decisions and be more comfortable and confident with that, and where to focus our thoughts and our wisdom.
Okay. Well, let's do the two cards then. Let's pull a card for obstacles and a card for supportive, and then we can go from there. So which one do you want me to pull first, obstacle or support?
Obstacles.
Okay, so there's obstacles and here's support. Okay, so obstacles, victory. It's kind of funny.
Oh. Oh.
So it's okay. So first off, this idea that you are paying attention to the financial picture is a victory. This is a really, really good thing. I know this position is supposed to be obstacles, but it's this idea of by not paying attention to it, it becomes more. By giving it energy and attention, you are healing that aspect of your lives, and you're giving it, again, when we give something energy, where attention goes, energy flows. And so the possibility space opens up and we're able to pull through the answers that we need and the solutions. And the wand card is creativity, inspiration, passion. It has to do with that fire within us that lights us up, that's that comes through us from divine source, the things that bring us to life. And so this card is one of approaching the obstacles, approaching the challenge with creativity, with passion, with enthusiasm even. And that would be what I would suggest you look at as your see if you can get a little bit of emotional distance from the charge around the financial issue, because I mean, let's face it, it's one of the issues that charges us the most in our life experience. But to come at it from a place of what feels the best to you, what brings the most enthusiasm when you look at your options, when you're looking at your financial picture, what feels best, and to use that as information to guide your choices and guide your decisions. And that will lead you to an experience of overcoming, of victory, of satisfaction, of feeling better about it. But I just first off want to acknowledge you that you are spending time on this, because it's so easy to just keep going and turn a blind eye and not want to look at it. But it's really, really important in our culture. Money is such a cornerstone to everything that we experience. It's so important for us to be conscientious about this resource and to be wise about it in our lives. So this card to me speaks to this giving it attention, but giving it attention from, as I said, as neutral a place as possible, in the sense of detaching from any trigger that might be happening around it, and giving yourself space to look at what feels good. What are your options? And out of those options, what feels good? Does that make sense?
Yeah, actually, yeah, in more ways than you can possibly believe.
Okay, I'm delighted to hear it.
That was actually really good.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And that's important. And I think, because you are with a partner and you're doing this as a family, bringing that collective energy together of that goodwill as a family too. You and your partner need to be on side and coming at it from this perspective, but also your children, to in whatever way feels appropriate to you, because I know you obviously can't put them in charge of your finances, but to hear what their dreams are and their aspirations are, what inspires and excites them, that too will help to fuel your picture.
Okay.
Okay, and this is what's supportive of your wisdom around money right now, the Hierophant. So this is the Pope in other decks. So this is this trusting your inner teacher, trusting the wisdom of the divine. I mean, in the Pope in the Catholic Church at any rate, of course, is
Wow.
the the representative of God on the planet, as we, from the Vatican's perspective, that sort of thing. But it's this idea of what is supportive for you in terms of your wisdom around money is asking for help and listening for that wisdom to come through, because it will. It's totally appropriate for us to be asking for help from the higher, wiser aspects of us that are divinely sourced, and to trust that the information will come as we need it to come, and that we will get what we need. So keep praying, that's for sure. That's what this says to me, is pull God into it, into your decision making, into your process. Invite the divine into your meetings, into your evaluations. Ask for the divine to be there as you talk to people. If you're working with other people, include that and ask for that in your every experience as you go about sorting this piece of your life out. Call on that wisdom, rely on it, lean on it. Like that's what it's there for. We often forget that. We often forget that strength is there for us, that wisdom is there for us, that support is there for us. And it's so kind, it won't push itself into our field. We have to invite it in. So that's what's sitting in your field of what is supportive in terms of wisdom around the money piece or the financial piece right now for you. Does that feel helpful?
Wow. Yeah. Being Catholic, seeing the Pope card is just ta-da!
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes. Yep. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Really fantastic. I don't know if this is going to help other people as much. It feels like these two cards were pointed directly at me.
Yeah. I
So
understand. But you know, it's what's true is we are all going through the same kinds of things. And so often, even when someone else asks a question, there's an answer for us in it, because we are all doing the same journey. We're all on the same path, and perhaps in a slightly different way. But you know, the piece about, you know, having a being neutral about our obstacles, staying in a neutral place. I mean, I think that would help all of us in terms of whatever it is that we're facing, because if we're in the depths of panic or fear or angst about something, it's really, really difficult for us to be peaceful and clear and make wise choices. And so, and then the other piece, of course, is stepping away enough and trying to get away enough from any of those triggers to have some peace and clarity, so that we can look at the options and go, which one feels best? Which one fills us with some enthusiasm and some life and some fire and some vigor? What are those options, or what are those possibilities? What feels best? Because there's always something that feels best. When we look at our different options, we always can see that there's one that's just, even if it's just a little bit more, there's always that option.
yeah,
And then just that remembering that we're not here alone, that there is tremendous strength and wisdom for us to call upon and pull into our lives if we ask for it. And we don't have to do it, you know, in a really three-dimensional, bullheaded way, forcing ourselves. You know, we can, pushing water uphill, so to speak. We can ask for help and have it support us in solving our issues more peacefully and gently.
beautiful.
Nice. All right. So maybe I'll pull two as well, since there's the two of us.
Oh, no.
We'll do a
Great.
little bit of diversity. I find it really hard to read for myself, but we'll just go with the overlighting energy that it's not just me, and I'll read from that place. So what is supportive of my wisdom right now, and what is an obstacle to my wisdom right now? And I'll start with the obstacle as well. So the obstacle to my wisdom, and what is supportive. Okay. So the obstacle, perhaps being a little bit too separate from the world, which rings true to me. This sense of being intentionally isolated. You see that what's interesting about this card is the swords are holding the container that the Buddha is sitting in, and so it's a very peaceful place, but it's a very intentional space, sort of keeping a boundary up. So that's interesting as an obstacle, maybe being just a little bit too isolated, maybe being just a little bit too removed, and perhaps not enough in the world. So that's this obstacle to wisdom, perhaps is being a little bit out of balance in terms of inward and outward, which, you know, I could see that. Being an introverted type, yes. Okay, and what is supportive of my wisdom? And this is an interesting card to get in terms of what is supportive. Because the card of sorrow, of course, you'd look at that and you'd think, oh, that's a terrible card. How could that be supportive? But what's true is that when we face the world and there are things that trigger sorrow in us or trigger any what we would call negative emotion, it's really an opportunity for us to clarify what in our heart is preferred. I'm not saying ignore where you are or ignore your experiences, but realize that the gift in any difficult experience is an opening to more of what you want if you give yourself the chance and the choice of redirecting your energy. It's easy for us to get stuck in our negative emotion. It's easy for us to go, oh, it's terrible, and our friends say, oh my God, what you're going through is so terrible. So I'm so sorry for you. I'm so bad. And before you know it, you have this massive agreement of energy about how terrible it is where you are. And that can make it really difficult to make different choices. It can make it really difficult to unstick from that and move in a direction that you want to go in. But that's the challenge and the blessing in everything that we face in life. Anything that comes up and offers us dramatic contrast is the opportunity for us to say, right, this is hard. I acknowledge it's hard. It's not what I'm wanting. And it's also a chance for me to clarify with life, what do I want? Where do I want to be going? How do I want this to go? And to give ourselves permission to turn and be curious about what possibilities are out there, what would light us up a little bit more. And when we're in the deep depths of something hard, it's really hard. It's really hard sometimes, and I get that. But even just giving ourselves a little bit of a glimmer of hope, understanding this isn't going to be forever, and we can use it as a tool to move our life in the direction that will be more of a blessing to ourselves and to others. That's the opportunity that is in this card. So it's interesting because it's sitting here in this position of what is supportive
Mm.
of my wisdom. And perhaps, in terms of this, it's recognizing that our wisdom grows as a result of the adversity that we've lived through.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we have more to give to each other. We have more compassion, we have more kindness, we have more discernment because we've been in a hard place, and then trusting that will makes us like a better human being, a better contributor, a better light for each other. It gives us almost permission to be more of a container for wisdom in our communities. This is very interesting. I just think about it, in my life, I mean, there's swords too, because swords are ideas in action. I always think about pruning when I think about swords, because you have that sword is sharp and it cuts things. It's really about really finitely cutting something. It's the end of it. You prune a branch off. You're not gluing that thing back on. It's done. And so it's interesting because there's this sort of sense of I don't know, it's like action not being taken or something here, too introspective, too meditative, too contemplative, too removed.
Mm-hmm.
And then here it's a bit more, you have all the swords coming at the individual. It's a bit more dynamic. I guess, and just holding that in whatever way that the adversity will actually make one stronger and better.
Yeah.
I don't know. You have any thoughts, Linda?
Yeah. I don't know if it would be an obstacle, but you really have created a beautiful world for yourself and your family. And it's interesting, it comes up as an obstacle, right? I don't know if you ever take it for granted that you have this beautiful world that you've created. I'm not it's interesting that it's seen as an obstacle, but
yes,
but then the sorrow card for you are those learning moments for you. I mean, I see that as this is a really positive reading where it acknowledges the work that you've done in making this beautiful bubble, this beautiful place for your family. And that, when hard things happen, you do take the time to think and grow. So it's beautiful, really. I love that for you.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is helpful to somebody else who's in this place in their lives, because it's interesting. I sometimes feel that yes, I have a beautiful life and I'm so appreciative of it, and it provides me with an anchor in the face of the difficulties of the world and in our world. But sometimes I feel like maybe I need to be more in the world, more of the world, to be maybe of service or help to more people.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's interesting. So that's what comes up to me when I look at this, and this perhaps concern about stepping out a little bit more and it being hard.
Yep.
And how will I do that? How will I navigate that? But I guess that comes back to the wisdom, right? That piece of trusting that when we ask for help, we will receive it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other questions, Linda? Anything else you want to explore?
This is a lot, actually. I feel like I have a lot to grow on with just these readings that I have. I can't wait to talk to my husband about this as well. So I'm going to leave it for this right now, this week.
Perfect. And since I don't have any other questions too, this will be a shorter one this week. How does that sound? So I will just say a little intention setting prayer collection at the end here. Creator, thank you for the opportunity to come together in this way, to pool our energy, to pool our connection to you, to come together and ask for help and receive it with your light and your love and your guidance. I'm so grateful for the wonderful people who are in my experience, for Linda here today, for all those who are listening in the future, for all those who form this amazing community that I've been so blessed to call my community. I thank you for each and every one of these people, and I thank you for everyone out there who is part of my community that I haven't met yet. I send love and light and support and wisdom to each and everyone who is out there in the world, that we may all stand tall in our connection to Source, that we may know that connection and draw upon it as we stand in this new world that we're creating together. Let us ask for the help and the support and the wisdom. Let us look for the wisdom in each other. Let us look for the wisdom in ourselves and know that it is there, because we are all connected and we are all part of the same wonderful Source. I thank you for this opportunity to do this work, Creator. Blessings on everyone who is listening. Much love and light. And so it is done.
Amen.